Well, hello and welcome. I'm here somewhere. How are you? I hope you're all doing well. It's been a while. I'm a little bit rusty on my live streaming. How are you all? I know it's been a hot minute, hasn't it? Oops, I'm here somewhere. Everything has changed. Everything's moved. Oh, wow. Oh, I can do slides and PDFs and extra camera and woohoo, all this sort of stuff. And I look like, I don't know what I love. Anyway, I'm going to catch up with the world and find out what's happening in the lives of everybody. And yes, hello. Depending on who's around will depend on how long I stay. It's been crazy. My mother's currently in Japan at the Star Wars convention, and I'm having to go feed her cat every day. I stay for about an hour and keep the cat company, as you do, because you don't want to upset the cat. I want to do a quick update on the Katie Joy lawsuits that's happened there. I believe, and I've been seeing some stuff on X where she has been talking about them again, and that's really not helpful in my opinion. So I just want to catch up with all of that. The Pope passed away. That's really interesting. In election season in Australia. In fact, I did my postal vote off today because I don't like being hounded at the polling booth, so I prefer to do postal votes, just so I can do it within my own environment. So I've essentially voted. You may or may not know, those in Australia know that voting is compulsory in Australia. You get fined if you don't vote. And I am, as much as I can complain about it, I do like the fact that we all get to have a say, and we all get to we get to have a say about things. So apparently she allegedly has broken something, and not everyone is giving her the claim. This is Katie Joy. She was upset that so there was a thing here that Melanie Watkins posted. So I want to look at some of the stuff that's been said about Shin and like that. If you're on the replay crew, welcome. I'm going to try and get there. Look, things have been. I can't believe that we're halfway through April. School technically back for a lot of kids today. Another group's back tomorrow, but then Friday is another public holiday because it's Anzac Day. So Good Friday is a public holiday. In fact, all of the Easter weekend is public. It's essentially a public holiday, and paid what we call penalty rates. So you're paid at double time, or it's time and a half, which is I think it's time and a half. I can't quite remember, but it's what the base rate is times by 1.5, and that's what you get paid. Anzac Day, another public holiday, and so we get that as well. So that's some kids aren't going back to school this week because they're having 2 days off or 3 days, but school's essentially back. I'm not happy. I've only got a few students, and I decided that I wasn't going to school for just a couple of students. So I'm back next week. So yeah. But other than that, life has been a bit upsy and downsy. So what has gone on in the world? Let's first of all look at the lawsuit. So how do we do this? Right. Share screen. Okay, cool. Right. So this is where we're at the moment, okay? So we've got this case. Now, we're heading up on the 4th of May. Oh, no, the 5th. No, sorry. I read that and I go the 4th of May, but I realize in America it's the 5th of the 4th. So we've hit 3 years. We've had its 3rd anniversary of the lawsuit. So we had a notice that was filed to say that they had to reorder stuff. We had the document from Amber, 84 pages, which showed the renumbering of pages. On the 10th of March, so on the 10th of March, they had to, there was an order given, okay. So Amber filed on the 26th of March this document. Now, on the 31st of March, it went back to under advisement. But there's all these other documents that have been added. Now, I'm assuming that it's under privacy, and so we're not going to see what's here. Here's the thing. This tells us that the date is the 17th of the 4th. Now, I don't know whether that is the date that they were uploaded on the system or what. Now, if we take it face value, so if we look at the date itself, you would say, well, the judge said on the 31st of the 3rd that she'd taken it under advisement, that missed the deadline. Now, what often happens in Australia, and not all documents, not all matters are actually filed electronically. Some are actually, filed on the day they go to court. Some are filed manually. You can still go to the court and hand in your documents. And they have to be manually scanned and then checked and rejected. That's the procedure in Australia. Even uploading the system, they're not necessarily made public straight away for public interest cases. Let me just show you an example of that. So that it may have been filed on an earlier date, but didn't hit the system until a later date, which would still make it valid. Okay, this sometimes happens, and that sometimes it's it's those things. So let me just show you in comparison to this. Although this one is so let me just show you this one. So this is the Bruce Lerman and Channel 10 appeal documentation. Now, what this so remember, in Australia, not all cases are public interest case. Only public interest cases can you get documentation. It's heavily redacted. It says here the document is published to the website down here, and this says document date. So, for example, this document says the 6th of September, but it was published on the website on the 17th of October. So that would tell us there's no, they made the deadlines. We don't have that here. All we've got is the 17th of the 2025. So so I don't know whether it means updated at that point in time or whether they did file late. Now, if they did file late, it would be then up to the judge's discretion whether she accepts the documents. So because we don't have the context of these documents, so I can't say she was late or she filed late or they filed late, they didn't do the right thing, because I don't know. Okay, we don't know. And it would be up to speculation. And I'm really not wanting to speculate on that. However, sometimes it can happen that, they're late. As I said, in Australia, for the cases, they will tell you what date what the date of the document is and what the date of the upload is. And that, to be honest, would be a lot more accurate and concise, and then we would know whether she was late or not. But the fact is, we can't see those documents because apparently, it's funny, we're not able to see a lot of her stuff, which is really quite interesting. So remember, we've got 90 days, 31st of March. So we're looking at April, May, June. So we're looking at June, end of June, early July. Now, as I said, if, and it's a big if these dates are correct and they filed late and they filed after she had taken, so the judge has uploaded on the 31st of March that she was taken up for advisement, and then the documents were received later. In Australia, you would actually have to apply to the court to ask permission to have the documents accepted. So it's not always done that if you file documents that they're going to be accepted. So that would be at the judge's discretion for that. But as I say, I want a big disclaimer on that. We don't know whether or not that is the date that they were uploaded on the system or whether that's the date that they were received. Okay? I'm not going to speculate on that. For all we know, that they made their deadline and just been slow putting everything up. Okay? That's giving the benefit of the doubt. And that's a big benefit of the doubt. But as I said, if it was like this, as we do in Australia, you would be able to see this one says the 1st of August, and then it was uploaded on the 17th of October. So not everything necessarily would necessarily be uploaded straight away. And some of the affidavits, or here their affidavits, they would have been presented in court in front of the judge as well. So, you know, there's lots of differences with how documents are received. As I said, we just don't know. All right, so I don't want to speculate on that. So that's that bit there. Now, I have not checked the Instagram for a very, very long time, and I've had no idea what's going on. But wow, apparently Candace Owens has acknowledged her, and I want to make sure that I've got the audio for that working. I'm not going to be on for long. I just wanted to make, so let's have a look. I haven't seen this, so let's have a look.
I did all of this deep dive in part because Be Better sent me stuff on Friday, and I forgot to credit him on today's show. I always make it a point to credit smaller creators. And also, people were saying that the person who found the lawsuit was without a crystal ball, and the Daily Mail did not credit that individual. I had no contact with that individual, but Without a Crystal Ball apparently is the one who dug up that entire lawsuit. So shout out to the smaller creators who get their stuff ripped and their content gets ripped and no one credits them. I totally forgot to tell you guys that Be Better put all of that on my radar over the weekend, and then I looked it all up today. I was saying.
So there you go. She's like gone. Story on this. The lawsuit was filed for crediting my work, digging up the same lawsuit filed to illegally obtain confidential information. Okay, so apparently she did it first, apparently. All right, but yeah, this is really bizarre. We break the stories. And then there's this cat. I have to say, I've got one cat in my house and one cat at my daughter's house, and so she very rarely shares her personal life, apparently. But every day before I get to work, husband get our son ready for school. Our day doesn't start off like most families, and his breakfast isn't what a typical child eats. But every morning we feed him, give him his medication to ensure he's healthy for school. Caregiving and parenting is hard work, but we wouldn't trade this for anything. So if this is your life, I see you. I know it can be lonely, But we're here, like you, doing our best to give our son the best life possible. I know caregivers and mums are working hard, tired, and sometimes feeling hopeless. There is always hope. And alone, we may not know each other personally, find strength in knowing that there are other mums out there. Okay, so it's interesting. She says but every day before I get to work. It's funny because I thought she worked in the same house, like in the same location. So she's definitely been on a interesting Blake Lively's so I haven't seen it I haven't looked her up for ages. I haven't cared about it, to be honest with you. I've just been living life, you know. All right, so let's have a look here. So was this right? Oh, that's it. Yeah, that is, yeah. So I'm going to go back to Miss Balls here. Miss Balls shared something. It says Shirley Kim saying that Shekinah Church is the ministry of reconciliation and is praying and declaring Alan Wilkins, sister of Miranda, to join God's family and separating herself from her real family. What are your thoughts of Shirley Kim? And it says, this is so hard to listen to. It was right after I said I was never going back to the church and my sister cut contact with us. So thankful I left that place. And at the same time, I'm devastated that my sister is still there. Now, to that, Miss Balls writes her revision of history. So if Miranda, James, and Vic dare to make a public comment, scared for her life but promoting articles to further expose her life, make it make sense, Roberto. People scared are begging TMZ to share their side. They call the police and get offline. Was this I think this was an old one, was it? Yeah, April 17. Remember, only Katie Joy is a victim. So this was back in this, yeah, so there's a pile of stuff. Video Priscilla Lee demonstrating the WOAC level stalker in the private people will go to.
9th. And one of the things Vic White, D-Dash, and Miranda Derrick are seen here having lunch together at a Korean restaurant in Glendale. This was filmed April 9th. And one of the things they talked about was, will Lauren be moving in with Vic? That's something that they want, meaning Miranda and B-Dash and Vic want, which means that's what Robert and Hannah want. And that means that they are trying to recruit Lauren and using Vic to do it. So here it is, guys. Vic White, still Shekinah Church.
Okay, so yeah, so she's still, you know, looking at all of that. But I just it's very, very interesting how the lengths that they're going to. So let's go back and have a look. Let's have a look at. I haven't looked at this. I haven't been on here for ages. I am. Let's go to Priscilla. No, let's go to Melanie Derrick. Yeah, Melanie Wilkins, sorry. She's got a couple of, I think she's got a couple of a couple of channels. So that's Nothing there. Melanie. I did see, I saw a video of Miranda looking amazing too. So this is another one of Melanie looking. Oh yeah, it's an old one. But if Priscilla is, taking videos of them in there, I know you definitely say it's stalkerish. I just think it's quite sad that they've got to try and catch them out by recording them. I think that's a bit sad. So yeah, so I hope this weather is like we've got, so we're in autumn or fall, let's say, and one day it's hot, the next day it's cold. But then I don't know. I don't actually know that is the weather or it's just my hormones at the moment, because like my hormones are all over the place. I can be hot and cold. I can be angry and I can be sad. I can be laughing one minute and when I throttle someone the next. It's so funny. It's like hilarious how much I just want to. So there was a Liz debate tonight. Apparently, I haven't watched one of them. As I said, I've voted for the thing. I just have no idea. If I was going to give anyone any tips, I'd say with your small piece of paper, whoever I give the preference to on the green piece of paper, I always give the preference to the other party on the white piece of paper, simply because you don't want such a majority that stupid decisions just go through the Senate. Because remember, the upper house of the Senate is supposed to be the house of review, and it's the Senate that is supposed to keep the White House on track. So I have no problems with it, with independence of power, because it makes both parties work, and that things are going to the stuff that's going to get through. One of our most successful parliaments in recent times was the Gillard government, which Gillard minority government, and they had to work really hard to get things through. And the balance of power, I think they had independents, and the independents were able to, filter out stuff, but they had to work for it. But I prefer the balance. I prefer the minority to be in the Senate, and then they can send everything back to go back to be reviewed, and that way they have to work on it a lot better. Tell me, a AFL footballer, Noah Bolter, was pled guilty to assault. He was sentenced today. There's lots of things about that sentencing, but he didn't go to jail. But he's been handed an 18-month community corrections order, which means he's got to do community service. It's been recorded as a criminal conviction, so he has to say, tick the box, have you got a criminal record? Yes. Fined $3,000, and he has to abstain from alcohol. Most interestingly, he's got a curfew from 10 p.m. to 6 a.m., which means he's unable to play night games for a team that he's with. So my question is, do you think that's a good punishment? Now, his lawyer did say, the lawyer pushed and tried to say, well, hang on a minute, he's got employment just time. And the magistrate said that it needed to be a punishment. So it would be a punishment. So, for example, Richmond, the team that he's paid to play for, plays Melbourne at 7:30 on Thursday night, and the game is expected to finish at 10:10. Now, his curfew is at 10 o'clock. So what does the club do? Do they pick him, or do they pick him, only allow him to play a quarter and then send him home? So there's a whole pile of different things that there's a lot of different scenarios in play, and they have 5 or 6 night games. So then how does he fulfill his role as a contract player if he has a curfew? So all of these things have to play out. There's people that said that it was lenient. Some have said it's too tough. Some have said he should be in jail. However, normally for first offences, just like everyone else on career, he needs to be at home. Well, yeah, I think a curfew. Yes, hello, Anna. He needs to be on curfew. He needs to be home. As the magistrate says, the curfew is going to hit him where it hurts because he has to be at home. It's about having a punishment. So I don't quite often when they do I don't want to call it, I mean, assault is assault, and it shouldn't happen. But you don't want to be putting people in jail for everything, because the jails are full. You want to try and keep, they want to try and keep out if possible. You don't want to. It was one count of assault occasioning bodily harm, and he settled a civil case with the victim at court. So he's compensated. Well, the other thing is he's compensated the victim as well. So yeah, it's very interesting. But he's got an alcohol, so he can't have alcohol. And he was fined. He did apologise. He says, I apologise to the victim, my family, friends, everyone associated to the Richmond Football Club. I've let a lot of people down, and the lesson has been that violence is not the answer. I will continue to improve on myself to ensure that this never happens again. Now, if it did happen again, for example, could jail. You see, this is what happens. So he was on a pub crawl on the day of the assault, and he punched the victim several times in the head, apparently. And he had a suspected rib fracture and a head. Yes, they said harm. Was it serious harm? I don't know. He also had a 6-month ban from his club as well. But so it's going to be interesting to see how it's navigated from the club point of view. A lot of the people who have worked at my partner's job have had curfews and had to leave work early as part of the process. I mean, that is one option, Anna. That's one option where they have him only play a quarter, or they just make sure that he's home in time. It would also mean probably not being able to go interstate. Time zone. Well, see, here's the thing. He's got a curfew from 10 p.m. to 6 a.m. Does that mean he can go to Perth, which is 3 hours behind? Or no, it's 2 hours behind at the moment, isn't it? And is he then on Melbourne, New South Wales time, or is he on, Queensland? So I think he's going to be very limited. He's going to be very limited by what he can do, and have to make sure that training's finished early as well. So, yeah. Definitely very, very interesting. So 1, 2, 3, 4. As I said, the magistrates was pushed to see whether he could get exemptions. Apparently, you can get exemptions for work with curfews if you're a job, and you can't change the time. But the magistrate said, well, this is supposed to be a punishment. And I think it's hit where it hurts. So he's going to have some time to think about that. So, yeah, so that's how we are. That's where we're at too. There's been a lot happening. Oh, the UK court. Let's talk about the UK decision about women. In Australia, we had the Tickle versus Giggle case. Hang on. Had the Tickle versus case, which where a transgender woman could Giggle for Girls app be caught for gender identity discrimination, and the case was the first in Australia to test the application of the 2013 Amendments to the Sex Discrimination Act, which expanded the definition of sex to include gender identity. The court's decision has implications for transgender rights. So essentially said that the Australian ruled in Tickle's favour, marking the first judicial decision to confirm that the country's federal sex discrimination law, Sex Discrimination Act of 1984, protects transgender people from gender identity discrimination. In the UK, there was a matter where the judge ruled that the term woman is used in the Equality Act means a biological woman and sex means biological sex. It also makes it clear that if a space or service is designated as women only, a person who was born male but identifies as a woman does not have the right to use such a space or service. So this is very interesting and very, very profound. So the court has said there's a difference between a biological that the term woman means a biological woman and the term sex means your biology. This was 5 judges ruled unanimously that the legal definition of a woman did not include transgender women. So it's very, very interesting. So what this is going to do now, we've had a decision in Australia and we've had a decision in the UK. They've sort of at different spectrums. Now, what it means is that the appeal that is the appeal that's happening, it can reference the UK court, and in Australia and the UK, I mean, there'll be an appeal there, they'll be able to use the Australian one. And that's very interesting. It's also could actually potentially change. There's an article from the New York Times, but it could potentially change how we view other things. So this is an article talks about it was 88 pages. Judge said they were not commenting more broadly on whether trans women are women, adding it was the role of the court to adjudicate on the meaning of gender or sex. So The unanimous decision of this court is that terms women and sex in the Equality Act of 2010 refer to biological women and biological sex. Judge Lord Hodge told the court. When announcing the ruling, Judge Lord Hodge stated it should not be taken as triumph for one group in society. Of course, there's lots of public debate. There's no set rule on transgender women in sport in the UK. However, many governing bodies have already implemented restrictions. World Athletics, British Cycling and Swimming global governing bodies with some of the governing bodies to update eligibility policies, outright banning transgender women from taking part in women's sports. In 2022, British Triathlon became the first British sporting body to establish an open category which transgender athletes can compete. And it seems to be the where a lot of associations are in an open category. In 2023, British Rowing followed suit, announcing that transgender women would not be permitted to compete in the women's category. It's by Rugby Football U and UK Athletics. Lawn Bowl Tennis Association, again, however, it does not restrict trans women and non-binary individuals assigned at birth from playing in the women's category in national championships, though. So Pride Sport UK has said that they were deeply shocked and they're trying to assess it. So there's been lots of work. So lots of different things. So yeah, I'm going to be very interested to see how this affect will have on appeals that are going on, particularly in Australia, and whether more governing bodies now will use that. But it is a very monumental decision. And it's going to be, you know, we sort of have a ruling. So here's the documentation. So this is from share screen. Here's the case here. The Women's Scotland appellant versus the Scottish Minister's respondent is a person with a full gender recognition certificate, which recognizes that their gender is female, a woman for the purposes of the Equality Act. It's appeal. So this was the appeal. So this was the date of issue, and that was the appeal there. And so here we go, and we've got we've got the judgment here, the judgment summary. Here is the video of the judge. This is what a UK court looks like. Here's the judges. Oh, read. So in the UK, your justice.
When we announce our decision in this case in a moment, some people here will be pleased and others will be disappointed. Whatever your feelings may be, please respect the dignity of these proceedings.
I'm a woman and I didn't mind a trans woman being called a woman. The problem I had with it is that some trans women thought bio women should be called someone with a uterus. Well, you have for they call feeder and all of that. So you can have a look at. So they've got here. You can actually watch the hearings there. So, which is really interesting. I've actually kept them up. So again, feels like I'm just a vessel. So yeah. So this was the case. So it was an appeal. And so there's the judgment and there's the press summary. I sort of have issues with the entitlement of some not all of them, of some trans women, where they believe that they're entitled to things because they're trans women. There are many that, you know, a day and mingle into the crowd like you wouldn't know. You know, they make an because part of being trans is that you're to live like a woman, and they just, you know, assimilate in, and you wouldn't be different. But it's all that's, you know, pick up a fuss that bugged me a little bit. So yeah. And I also have issues with children being allowed to education. We know that the brain doesn't fully develop till you're 25, and I don't think anything that alters your body that seriously should be able to have until you've fully developed your brain, because until you're not in the right, you can't make decisions properly, in my opinion. This is just my opinion. Just my opinion. So yeah. What do you think about JD Vance being one of the last people to see the Pope? There's lots of conspiracy theorists about that. So they've got here, a video of Vance visiting, watching the scene with the Pope. What are your thoughts on that? Do you have any thoughts? Do you have any thoughts? This was his last public.
Pray for you every day. Bless. So good to see you. Good morning. How are you?
Find yourself.
Good. Yeah, thank you. I've not been feeling great, but it's good to see you. And thank you.
These are for your children.
Okay, thank you.
These are the gifts. These are also gifts for you.
Thank you.
It's
Beautiful.
the Vatican tie, and then the rosaries for your wife, the white for your children, and the red one is for. Thank you very much for your visit.
Of course. And thank you for seeing me. Pray for you every day.
Doesn't he, the Pope?
Io prego per lei ogni giorno, che Dio la benedica. Grazie.
Happy.
Here we go. That's the video of the last. You reckon he bored the Pope to death? Oh. I was reading that they really wanted him to rest, but if he said no, I got to go to church, it's Easter, you know. So he yeah, as we all do, we don't ever want to so this is another post. It says, this is Pope Francis, the Pope who carried his own luggage, paid his own hotel bill after election, lived in a simple guest house. His humility was revolutionary leadership to 2,000 years of church hierarchy. So he was the first to choose the name Francis after Francis of Assisi, of course. Most people moving to the luxury palace with 10 rooms and staff of 30, he refused. Instead, a modest 2-roomed apartment in the Vatican guest house. I need to live on people, he said. His residence became a statement against isolation. He washed 12 feet of prisoners in 2013, including women and Muslims, at top traditionalists. For 2,000 years, the popes only washed priest feet. He had a 1984 Renault with 190,000 miles when a priest gave it to him. He rejected the bulletproof Popemobile when possible. When asked about his modest cars, he responded, "How can it be that the servant of God becomes so rich?" Leadership, my 5 words, who am I to judge? When asked about gay clergy in 2013, this response signaled a profound shift, not in doctrine, but in approach. He created a paradox of humbly. He appeared personally, the more radical institutional challenges came. He entered more women to senior Vatican roles. He reformed Vatican finances. He decentralized authority, apparently. So, with one line removed 21, he spoke openly about his health struggles. He refused special treatment when he was admitted to hospital. He traveled places popes very rarely visited. He went to war zones, refugee camps, prisons, slums, environmental disaster zones, apparently. So he lived simply. He wasn't just saving money. He was modeling a challenge to the entire hierarchy. If a pope doesn't need luxury, what bishop needs a mansion? If he carries his bag, why do priests need deference? His example rippled it down. So there he is carrying his own bag. So there we go. So I guess we're going to, we have another. You see. Yeah, about a new pope. So there we go. So check class about the hormones. I mean, there's been a lot of there's that whole detransitioned movement that's happening, and a lot of them were kids that went on them, and their lives are ruined. A lot of them are infertile; they do not have kids, and that's the saddest part. Is that the mess it does to the body, and not enough scientific evidence about the effect of this happening. I think in a generation's time, when we have the stats, they'll be horrified at what we did to kids. What we allowed kids to do. So it's really sad. So yeah, I think 25 is a good age. And I think from a lot of reading and from listening to people that have transitioned, those that transition are over 25 to 30, once they've hit that 25 mark, if they transition as an adult, they're more likely to stay transitioned than if they transition as a child. And I think that should tell us a lot. So anyway, it is nearly midnight here. So I'm going to go to bed. Thank you for watching. Hello to those of you on the crew. If you do me a favor, like and subscribe. Thank you to all my members that have stuck with me. I'm still working. I've got a video that I'm working out. They opened a new Costco here in Australia, and I went soon after it opened, and I braved the people in the crowds. I've got to put that one up. But just trialing a few different things because but where's the year gone? Seriously, I just don't know. But anyway, tomorrow, so as I said, I've taken this week because I'm not going for just a couple of students because Friday's a public. So we had a public holiday Monday, and then we've got a public holiday Friday. So yeah, tomorrow I've just got to go to my daughter's house and go make sure the cat's okay, and then do that the only thing I really have to do over the next few days. Got 2 weeks of that. So once I go to work, I'll be doing it on my way home from work because I'm going to stop off at their house. I've been for an hour to stay with the cat, and they've got such a comfy lounge suite that if I sit on it, I end up falling asleep. So I have fallen asleep on more than one occasion on the lounge at their place. So, yeah. All right, I'm going to head off. So thank you very much for watching. I will catch you next time, and we'll see where we'll just keep watching and see what else is in the world. Bye for now.